How's it going, everybody? And welcome to my Harlowe Chain Lightning build guide. So this build's all about spreading your damage everywhere and entangling as many enemies as possible without having to use a fireworks shield. As you can see, all I'm doing is critting one guy and everyone is electrocuted and irradiated. And they'll just continuously chuck around radiation darts at each other and lightning bolts at each other. Now what I do is I work this around the Chroma accelerator for huge damage. So because you're spreading that damage around everywhere, you get huge benefits every time you use your Chroma accelerator from neutron capture. So basically you're working this build around farming non-elite mobs and then using neutron capture to kill large badass enemies. So if we use our Chroma accelerator and then we have all that built up damage, now you can see how much insane amount of damage is being spread everywhere. And this confirmative reality makes it so we get Chroma accelerator back very quickly. So you're constantly casting Chroma accelerator. So you're shooting big orbs all the time. So then if we use our rep kit, then our Chroma accelerator, and then we shoot, damage gets out of control and we already have our Chroma accelerator back again. Alright, so let's get into our inventory and I'll show you why we picked what we picked. Now the main weapon for this build is the plasma coil. It just has some of the most insane shock damage of any weapon I found in the game. Also, it has nice splash damage. The downside is the projectile speed is pretty slow. So if that really irritates you, you could go ahead and get a wombo combo that's also in shock. And then the only other weapon I would recommend, especially for bossing, because the one weak point of this build is against armor. I do have a wombo combo in corrosive to help with that. But if you're using your Chroma accelerator, it really doesn't matter what you shoot at them because they'll take so much increased damage. Then for our rep kit, we're using the shiny war paint. Now the reason I like the shiny war paint is because of the plus 30% fire rate. Because you're trying to fit as much damage as you can in that 8 seconds of that neutron capture skill. Now for what makes this build all come together is the Field Scientist class mod. Now one thing about the Field Scientist class mod is you must have ripple effect on this. Because this brings the whole skill together when you're mobbing, when you're doing big drill sites. You want that entangle going everywhere, so you're making explosions, radiation, shock come out of everyone. As for shields, I have two choices of shields. When I'm fighting humanoids or flesh, I do like using the fireworks shield. I also like using this against flying enemies. But when you're fighting against robots or the monsters before the vaults, then the sparky shield works very well to knock their shields down. As for your enhancement, just get the best that you can from Wont. Unfortunately, this is one of the few legendary enhancements I didn't get. I have the Jacobs, the Vladoff, the COV, the TDR now, but I was not able to get a Wont one. As for grenades, I've been using the fire pot this time, but a swarm would do well. Also, I really like a radiation jelly, but basically any grenade that's going to do AoE damage. Like I said, I'm trying out the fire pot. I think technically I'd lean more towards the swarm if you could only have one. And as for our specializations, we are going for high caliber. Projectile speed is increased by 25%. I'm not sure that actually works with the plasma coil, but I'm trying it out because in theory, if it's a bug and they fix it, that's exactly what you'd want, because the worst part of the plasma coil is the slow moving projectiles. And then you get 10% increased gun damage, but then you get bullets pierce enemies. And that's a big reason to use high caliber, because you just can shoot right through anybody with your Vladovs, with your Wont, it doesn't matter. You're just spreading more damage. And then we're going with airstrike because of splash damage, splash radius, because we're making so many explosions with radiation. Now onto the skills. So because we're working around the neutron capture, we want as much action skill damage as possible. So we're going field ready prototype, increased action skill damage. And because this is an elemental build, we're going elementary, increased elemental damage and status effect damage. Makes sense? And then most of our damage is from radiation, even though we are using shock weapons. Radiation tick damage and explosions are still the biggest part of your damage. So we want to increase radiation damage. So we get enriched. And then we want to get our cooldown back as fast as possible so we can keep shooting the Chroma accelerator over and over. So we got 2 points in test subjects. And once again, you can kind of see a trend here. We're going Poison Sun to increase radiation damage. Now this is a big one, the Fizzle Launcher. Whenever Harlowe damages an irradiated enemy or an entangled enemy, shoot a radiation dart at another enemy. Now this is what keeps passing around radiation damage from person to person to person. And then we got 3 out of 3 Chain Reactor, and this goes really well with our class mod and that skill, Ripple Effect. So once again, whenever Harlowe kills an entangled enemy, automatically entangle another nearby enemy. So you are constantly entangling enemies. That also goes with our class mod. Whenever Harlowe shocks an enemy, she automatically entangles and irradiates that enemy. So once again, more entangled enemies. Whenever Harlowe entangles an enemy, electric arcs shoot out from that enemy at other nearby enemies, which also entangles more enemies. I think you guys can get the picture. And then we're going with Wasted. Killing an irradiated enemy or killing an enemy with radiation damage leaves behind a radiation hazard. That just leaves a puddle of radiation on the floor. People do walk through it constantly, just extra damage. And then this one is pretty mega, Dirty Bomb. Whenever Harlowe irradiates an enemy, create a radiation explosion on that enemy. Because everyone's irradiated all the time, there's explosions all the time. And then we're using our Capstone talent of Demon Core. As Harlowe's unstable energy pocket travels, it shoots radiation darts at enemies. Whenever Harlowe entangles an enemy while her action skill is active, automatically irradiate that enemy. So that's basically like a beefed up version of Fizzle Launcher. And it's just once again about spreading radiation. Now we move on to our green tree. Action at a distance. Whenever Harlowe applies a status effect to an enemy, she gains a chance to apply that status effect to each entangled enemy. So that's also spreading your shock damage and your radiation damage. And if you're using your corrosive gun, it spreads the corrosive damage. Then we went 5 out of 5 momentum. Whenever Harlowe entangles an enemy, she and her allies deal increased critical hit damage. Everyone's entangled all the time. So you basically always have 25% critical hit damage. Then we're going Neutron Decay. Whenever Harlowe irradiates an enemy, she gains increased gun damage. This effect stacks. You're constantly going to be sitting at 5 stacks, so 50% increased gun damage. And the reason that's important is because it goes with our specialization. We have the talent I Am a Gun. Action skill damage now benefits from increases to gun damage. Action skill damage 50% of increases to gun damage. So we're also making our Chroma accelerator do more damage by using this. And this is massive. We're also making our Chroma accelerator come back quicker. Whenever Harlowe shoots an entangled enemy, she and all allies restore a portion of their action skill cooldown. You're always shooting entangled enemies, 90% of the time. Then we put our last 3 talent points in Refraction. Harlowe and her allies gain ricochet chance against entangled enemies. Critical hits double this chance. Ricochets have reduced damage. So you're only doing 50% of your damage, but once again, everyone's entangled all the time. So you're basically doing a weak Jacob's Ricochet constantly. Now is into our blue tree, which is where all our talent points from our class mod are going. You have Periodic Table Flip. Harlowe gains increased elemental damage, status effect application chance, and cryo effectiveness. So just a flat damage boost for your elements. That's good. Then Experimentation. Now if you're going for straight mobbing, then you want as much experimentation as you can possibly get on your class mod. So kill skill, killing an entangled enemy causes an elemental explosion on all other entangled enemies. So most enemies are going to be entangled, so you're going to get a lot of elemental explosions. Now this one, like I said before, your class mod must have Ripple Effect. Whenever Harlowe kills an entangled enemy, automatically entangle another nearby enemy. Digging deeper into our specializations for this class, I would ignore that I have 18 points in Sharpshooter. You really only need to do 10 in Sharpshooter, 10 in Runner, and then your active passive skills in the zone is good. While aiming, the Vault Hunter gains increased gun damage and critical hit damage per second. The bonuses are lost after 2 seconds of not aiming. I just aim a lot anyways, Call of Duty player at heart, so having 25% extra gun damage and 25% critical hit damage most of the time. Now I'm also using Bullet Train. The Vault Hunter can now hit fire while sprinting and gain gun damage the faster they move. Because this is a mobbing build, you're basically constantly moving, because if you ain't moving, you're dying. So you get 15% increased gun damage while walking. That's basically constantly going to be active while mobbing. And then we've discussed this before, and while we have this, it's to make our Chroma accelerator hit as hard as possible, because that makes our neutron capture hit hard as possible, which helps you bring down bosses and badasses in the blink of an eye. And now last but not least, an Honored Mind. Action skills gain a chance to critically hit enemies, and also gain increased action skill critical hit damage. So this makes our Chroma accelerator able to crit, and it makes the critical hit really hard. So once again, that is amping up neutron capture. So everything in this build is to buff this ability and spread damage around as much as possible. As for weak points on this build, like I said previously, you struggle with armored enemies when you do not have an active neutron capture. And it is a mobbing build, not a bossing build. Now, here's a clip of taking a boss. It's not hard to kill a boss on UVHM 5. It just takes about 30 seconds instead of 4 seconds. But I think the trade's well worth it, especially if mobbing is the thing you like to do. And honestly, I can't wait until we can get a Maliwan takedown style in-game raid that mobbing is huge in, because to me, killing a solo boss, pretty boring once you know the mechanics. But mobbing is so enjoyable and so fun to me. So I hope you guys liked the video. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, maybe give me a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.